Hey guys, welcome back to the Fanspire. I'm Priyanka here, and today we are collaborating with Women's Football India to do a very special post match discussion of yesterday's game between India and Iran. So, yes, we have Mithila and Ulas here. Hi, guys, welcome.
Hello.
Yes. So, as I hope you guys have watched the game and tuned in for the same because it's super important that we support our women. And yeah, the game ended in a nil draw, which was super sad because India had so many chances. But yeah, before we go into talking about the game, let's just quickly talk about the run up to the game. So, anyone wants to go first and talk about that?
So happy to start. Um,
Perfect.
it
Go
was
ahead.
very. I I was already quite. What do you call it? Crestfallen with the way we went into the tournament because obviously Bala Devi couldn't, race fast enough against time, and we knew that that would be a problem because the kind of quality she brings and is something else, right? And then of course I think just as bad was Sangeeta Basfore's absence, and then again that left a big gaping hole. Now we tried other combinations to compensate for Bala's absence, but with Sangeeta Basfore's absence, I think Denerby at one point said, "I gave up. I can't replace anyone. I can't replace her with anyone." So as we saw later, right? And on top of that, all the suddenly a couple of days before we were to take the field, all the COVID cases started piling up as was expected. It's a miracle this tournament is happening at all. It's quite amazing that all these teams have consented to being here in India in spite of everything. And as bad as COVID is, and by the way, strange thing is, the last time we played in the Asian Cup, even that was played under the shadow of a pandemic. Um, that was the SARS pandemic, uh, and that was also postponed. And now we find ourselves in a similar sort of unwelcome situation. But I'm glad it happened. All the teams assembled. While it was bad, it was also a leveler in a manner of speaking because all teams seem to be affected.
Yeah.
So uh, it's not something that is exclusive to us. So then we heard, of course, that Sweetie was missing two of our goalkeepers. I'm told, tested positive. Shreya was brought in as a replacement keeper and she tested positive, I'm told. But that just meant that Panthoy Chanu got a look in and uh, nobody's complaining about that. So it wasn't ideal preparation, I would say. Uh, but yeah, it is what it is.
Yeah. So, we've just discussed about going into the tournament. Of course, like as a fan in India, just seeing these big teams come in, like obviously you have Australia, Japan. That's just amazing as well. And just to mention the Australia game today, 18 nil. Oh my
It's
god.
crazy. They were scoring every 5 minutes, I think, in the first half at least.
Literally, literally. Um, so yeah, let's just go back to talking about the India versus Iran game. What do you guys think about the lineup, Mithila?
I mean, are we going to ignore the fact that there was a lineup mishap that happened? But yeah,
Exactly.
I mean, it did, and we're definitely going to talk about it. There are two different lineups posted on the AFC page and one on the Indian football page. Turns out there was a small problem with the Indian football one where I think Kamala Devi was brought in as one of the mains and Indumati was subbed, and everyone was just like, "What is going on? I mean, how can you sub out one of our main midfielders, right?" But yeah, I guess that was just a mistake. I think overall, with the starting lineup, I was expecting to see Dangme over there. Dangme Grace she's been really good. I was actually very strongly expecting to see her in the starting lineup, but I think he chose to go with Sandhya instead. But other than that, I think with the players that we had, we did pretty much what we could. I think Manisa Panna was brought in as the substitute for Sweetie, who would have started with Ashalata. But yeah, I think otherwise we pretty much played in the roles expected.
Yeah, I too would agree about Grace. Like, you could see what an impact she made even when she came on, right? After
Exactly.
being subbed on. So that's there. Last, any thoughts on the lineup?
No, I was just going to tell Mithila that it was not an error. It's just that the Indian football social media admin is just as big a fan of Kamala Devi as we are. I think we were sending subliminal messages to Denerby that please pick her, please pick her.
You
It
sent
didn't
your
happen.
vibrations work to us, like all the vibrations you put out into the universe.
It only worked as far as the social media handle. It didn't work. It
Fair
didn't
enough.
quite reach Denerby, but maybe because of the bubble. But yeah, I mean, I think the big question there was, as I said earlier, right? There is no replacement for Sangeeta in the team. So the question obviously was going to be who was going to be sacrificed in a manner of speaking, because someone would have had to play in an unfamiliar position, take on an unfamiliar role. Uh, we did speculate that that could potentially be Indu, but that ended up being Ratan. Um, and in a way, I'm extremely grateful for that, because Indu was the only creative spark in the first half. So I'm glad she wasn't expected to play deep. So yeah, that was always going to be a challenge. See, if we look at it, we knew going into the tournament our biggest challenges would have been to replace Bala and to replace Sangita. And if you see the result tomorrow, those are the two omissions that cost us the most, right? Like we saw a very below par performance from Ratan because she is not familiar in that position, and then we saw that we were not able to finish because there was no Bala.
Yeah, absolutely. You started talking about the first half. Obviously, we saw a couple of chances created in the first half, but don't you think Iran kind of exposed defensive gaps a couple of times here and there?
Yeah, I think the first 20 minutes was actually all them. We were pretty much, I think someone mentioned that it looked like we were for 20 minutes we just used and sat on the back foot to understand their game, to just read what the opponents were doing. But yeah, it wasn't a game where we were on the front foot from the beginning, we were pressing the accelerator the whole time, nothing like that. We did take a while to settle, and that is okay because I think eventually we did settle well into the game. But I think there were a few moments where it was a little scary for the defense. I think Ashalata held her own, of course, but this does make me question our defense against much bigger teams, like let's say a China, because in those situations you need to be at the top of your game from the first second all the way till the 90. So I think that could be, if we are going to sit back and let the team do its thing, bigger teams are going to take better advantage of that. But of course, teams like Iran, they themselves came into the game very defensively. They played a very defensive game eventually, because it could also be that we eventually took the forefront. We were making a lot more attacking moves. I think both the wing backs did contribute, in my opinion. I think both Dalima and Sanju were,
Yeah.
going in for the attack. But of course, I think Sanju isn't playing in her natural position. She came in as a striker, but I think she's playing a wing back right now. So a little bit of her defensive qualities were exposed a little in the first half. But I think she combined with Manisha to a fair extent. I mean, like we know, the finishing was a constant issue, which I think is what we were lacking throughout. I don't think we have a ruthless striker like Bala. And it's pretty much like the men's and women's, how Chetri's miss will be felt and how Bala's miss is being felt here. And I think it's just the same old problem. Pyari is physical. She uses her body well, but I don't think that she used it well enough to create chances. Like Ullas said, I think Hindu was a huge workhorse for us up front. If she was made to do defensive duties, we would not have had as many attacking moves as possible. That happened, I mean. So I think those are a few things which are gaping holes in the game.
Yeah, and since we're talking about the strikers and obviously how we could not finish, I was wondering if like it was. I was just thinking about it. Like, is confidence something that we were lacking? Like, you know, like once you're in front of the goal as a striker, you know you have that confidence, you're going to take a shot. But we saw that not happening multiple times in the game. So is it like confidence of probably, you know, not playing in that position? Obviously we mentioned we are missing one of our top strikers over there, but do you think confidence is something that our players were missing in terms of you know, finishing?
Go for it, Ulas.
No, I don't think confidence is an issue at all. I think we read the script wrong. I have to say that because if you look at all the coverage before the match, it was all about how Iran will be hard to break down, how Iran will be tough. Iran will make it difficult for us to score against them. While that was true, the first 20 minutes, that is where we went wrong, because that was the only plan we were expecting, and suddenly they took the game to us in the first 20 minutes. And Mithila, and yesterday I heard Orko also say this, that maybe we were reading them. I don't think we were reading them as much as we were just simply unprepared for that. We just expected that, you know, they'll all sit back and thwart us. That didn't happen in the first 20-25 minutes at least. And confidence was definitely not an issue, and certainly shouldn't be an excuse for a team that's been together for a few months now, has had the luxury of playing quite a few friendlies, um, and against very highly reputed teams. And the whole point of doing that at that point, I remember Abresh Mina said this on one of the podcasts, that the whole point of playing against a Brazil was that we won't get overawed by the occasion or the opposition when the Asian Cup comes along. So no, confidence wasn't an issue. It's just that we implemented our plans very poorly, and I think that is where we got it wrong. And we have to also give credit to Iran. They certainly showed up like they were more than the sum of their parts, and there is obviously a backstory to that. They What they lack in preparation, technical finesse, and all of that, they are a unit. They came in, and we keep saying that Iran was our best chance, but if you put yourself in Iran's shoes, they probably thinking India is our best chance of getting a point, right? Because then they have to play two countries that they have fewer chances or lesser chances of winning against. So they came in wanting to prove a point. And Iran Dostos, the Mariam Iran Dostos, the coach, she repeatedly said this, that no, we won't be pushovers, and my girls will show you what they're made of, and they did, right? So yeah, credit to them.
Yeah, I think I really do agree with what you said, especially about wanting to win. I think their want to defend outweighed our want to score. And that's pretty much what happened. Even in the dying moments, I think Grace's goal being denied was Spider-Man keeping. I don't know where she came out of. It was intense. You can even see the cameraman behind leaping and just like sinking his head in agony because we actually didn't end up scoring that. I think even Grace was just like she's probably cursing herself for that miss. But to have missed something like that is not just a miss from our part; it's also fantastic defending from their end. They literally gave it their all and they knew they wanted a point to get away from this. Because if you see in their attack, a lot of times it was just a 5v1 or a 4v2 situation up front. They weren't really trying creatively to do anything up front. It was just Zandy. She has pace. She was giving Ashalata a little bit of hell, but I think Ashalata is managed that pretty fairly, right? But this was their game plan and they seem to have executed it really well.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you look at those individual stories also, they extremely remarkable, right? I read yesterday that Ghazle Bani Talebi, she put in that brilliant tackle, last ditch tackle to thwart, I think it was Indu, if my memory
Hindu,
serves me
yes,
right.
yes. Hindu
Yeah,
shot on
that
goal,
that,
yeah.
that and this player didn't play football until 3 years ago. And those are the
What?
kind of incredible, those are the kind of incredible stories we've seen, right? And that last ditch tackle to deny Grace towards the end, and as you said, Mitla, that Spider-Man save, all of those moments were typical gritty fighting Iran, right? I mean, that's what they promised they would bring into the tournament, and they delivered. And how?
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's I wish more stories like this, were put out for people to know and read and hear about, because that's what's needed. But yeah, as you guys said, they really came out and did a good job. You could see India being a little frustrated towards the end of the game as well. They were putting in long balls into the box, trying to somehow just get the goal, but it still didn't work for us.
So Priyanka, if you appreciate those kind of stories, there's one more I'll leave you with. Uh, so the Mariam Iran Dost, there's a story about her that one of the most popular delicacies in Iran is something called gourmet sabzi. Um, and apparently everyone loves it in Iran, but she hates it. She stopped eating it because of the typical sexist comment that why are you playing football? Go make some gourmet sabzi. So she hated that so much that she stopped eating it. So I mean, those are the characters we went up against yesterday. So yeah.
That's absolutely wow.
Nice. I really hope people take something away from this, at least Ulas's stories.
Yeah, and the fact that you even remember the names, got to give it to you for that.
I read a lot about them because I had this very what do you call it, like every time I see too much optimism around our football teams, I get a little alarmed and I start researching the opponents just to get my head around why are we all so optimistic. What are we not seeing here? So yeah.
Seeing the bigger picture.
So,
Nice.
have you read
Bigger
anything
picture.
else about our next opponents?
No, I haven't gone there yet. Because
But
there's a
thought
sense
of it.
of pragmatism about it. Because Chinese Taipei, I think we can put up a good show, but at the same time, there's a sense of pragmatism that maybe it won't be easy. And now that all the hype has sort of subsided, yesterday, I think before 7:30, we are a shoe in for the next World Cup, right? And it took it took those 2 hours to sort of temper our emotions, and now we are taking a slightly more realistic view that okay, it might take a little longer than that, or maybe we'll have to host the World Cup, but uh, will take us a while to get there.
This whole how to prove you see women's football without actually seeing women's football is just all of these fanatics who are running around saying World Cup. Reminds me of that entire FIFPro 11 world's best 11 list where they got it completely wrong. There's not even one Barcelona player. I think people need to watch more and be more grounded to actually what's really happening.
Yes, yes. Actually, I did. So a lot of people, fans who watch men's football, tuned in to watch our women's team play, and yeah, I got quite a few surprising comments and replies. But yeah, let's just keep this positive tone to get there. But yeah, it was good to see them tuning in and being like, oh, our girls can play too, and social media also as well. But I think it's more towards like the footballing community because we are a part of it. We saw the hype. I don't think outside the football community, a lot of people knew it. Like, I kind of asked my mom, like, are you aware that this is happening? And she's like, oh, no, not really. So, um,
Yeah.
really,
No,
really
but
hope.
Priyanka, I have to say that while I may sound like I'm complaining about this, but uh, if you could give me one Christmas gift next year, I would say give me the same sort of timeline that I saw yesterday for women's football all year round. I am not complaining about the attention at all. I'm not complaining about all the excitement at all. Uh, in fact, the longer more people watch it, the more reasonable the expectations also will be.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna take time, but we can get there. So yeah, before we go into just talking a little bit about the upcoming game, we want to take a little few questions which have come in. So Vinit asked, we missed chances obviously, but do you all think the fans were loud? Would have been easy win, which we deserved.
I mean, this is an interesting point, and I actually have to say I agree with him. I think fans would have given maybe a little bit of the edge that was clearly missing over there. Something, I don't know, something would have clicked in terms of them being a little more familiar around people actually cheering for them, actually coming out there. So yeah, I do agree with you. I think fans in the stadium might have made it a little easier. Of course, not taking away from anything that Iran did or what we did as well. I think our performance also was good. It was just we just weren't clinical enough in the final third. But yeah, I think apart from that, I think you're right. Maybe fans would have made a difference.
think Sandeep Chetri is on the list.
No,
You can't.
I actually don't want to sound as pessimistic as Sandeep, but I do believe that yes, the crowds in the stands would have made a difference, but we don't know. It could have also added more pressure because our team has been preparing for the last 6 months without any fans anyway, right? It's always been empty stands and all of that. So um, I would have been great to lift the spirits, but different players respond differently to the crowds and all of that. So it's hard to predict. About the win being deserved, I would say that football is not only an attacker's game; it's equally a defender's game. So I'm not usually a fan of this team deserved because they attacked more, but Iran also defended quite resolutely. So they deserved that result as much as we did. So yeah, I still believe that we could have turned this around. Even
Yeah.
and that's where I disagree with Denerby's substitution, especially one because bringing in taking out Pyari was the correct decision, but that should have been Kamla coming in, which I thought was a huge disappointment because you have someone who is extremely experienced, who has the composure to take shots and on. You saw a couple of shots from Pyari, they were just completely listless. She's an extremely good player. However, she was not in her element yesterday at all. It was the same with Sandhya. So yes, had Grace started, we could have seen far more energy in the first half. She could have combined better with Indu, and things could have happened. Similarly, had Kamla come in, then that little trio of Grace and Kamla and Indu could have helped.
Mhm.
Yeah, and they could have done something. And of course, Manisha also didn't have a bad game at all.
Yeah.
So it was just that we got it wrong in terms of our team selection up front. Uh, we could have won it with the squad we had. So yeah, it's not about it. The crowds could have helped, but I think we have to say that we lost it with the team selection.
I think it's a little bit of the when you draw a game, you're not fully disappointed, neither are you extremely happy either. So I think everyone who's watched the game is left in a little bit of a limbo because you think about it now. Let's say someone had scored, and maybe even Grace's goal, if she had scored, and even a 1-0 win is a 1-0 win, that's about it. It doesn't matter how bad you played, how well you played. If Iran had scored that one goal, that would have still been a win for them. But I mean, we left it at a draw, right? Now that person who scores the goal will be a hero, and that's how the narrative of a game changes with how goal scorers are. That's why I think, like what you said, defenders have an equal role to play in any football game. So I think in this game, I mean, yes, we're absolutely happy. I think there's one comment, right? Like if you aren't good enough, if you don't know how to take a shot at the optimum time, you're not good enough. And as much as I do agree with that, I think that's exactly where we were lacking. We agreed and we pretty much have broken it down to the fact that we did not have a clinical finisher. We weren't good in the attacking third. We created so many chances only to let it fall into their hands, right? So they got something right and we didn't. And that's pretty much what's going in circles.
Yeah. Let's see if we have any more. So from Samar, he says he was bought in 6 months back. But do you think he's done a fair job though with the girls in that amount of time?
I do think he has done a really good job. I think he's brought in a lot of organization and structure, at least with the way. I mean, we haven't been. I mean, I'm talking about it from the Brazil game, but in this tournament, because the stakes are high, we haven't been tested against the stronger team yet. So I guess we'll know in the next couple of games. But I really like the way he organized the defense. I really like the way he built in on the counter attacks, especially the one that led to Manisha's goal against Brazil. Uh, I mean, of course, like Ullah said, in this game, substitutions were questionable, but I think overall, as a coach, Danavi has done a really good job.
Yeah, and to add to that, there were comments on social media about their fitness. They looked really fit to go in this tournament, which is
Yeah,
another aspect that he took care of. So that
yeah, yeah.
that's good going from his part.
Yeah, he had a fitness coach come in from Sweden, right? I think.
Tonquist.
Yeah.
Yeah, Tonquist. Yeah, and credit to the federation for that. In terms of the preparation for this set of players, they have gotten extremely good,
Yeah.
friendlies and a lot of support from the federation against a lot of odds. Right, given the pandemic and all of that. So, in terms of preparation, and Denerby has done well, but then he hasn't had enough time, right? And I think Memol was relieved at a time when no one could really make sense of why it happened. So it felt like a very tactical project management decision, because it felt like Asian Cup is a project. For this, we'll bring in a different project manager. That seemed to be the thinking. I don't know what really happened there. But yeah, so now, in spite of the best intent and efforts, Denerby hasn't had enough time. Even if we end up playing really badly over the next couple of games, I still think that it won't be a fair reflection on Denerby's ability to coach.
Yeah.
Fair point, fair point. So yeah, let's take the last question, and it's also about the upcoming game.
What do you think? We start by going in all the minutes, how the match goes on.
Also, commenting great at the same
Thank you,
time.
Roshan. Glad to have a fan.
A
Do
fan,
you think?
Mithila,
Who do
you
you
have a
think?
fan club.
Oh my God! Please stop.
Yeah, not the first time you've got like comments on Fanspire. She does have fan club, fan club.
Yeah, I really wanna. I actually really want to commentate again, but just nothing else happening yet. So hopefully, wait for some local derby. Uh, I actually think he's going to start Grace for the Chinese Taipei match. I think he's gotten enough proof from what happened in the previous game. So definitely start Grace. Please bring on Kamla. I mean, at least if not starting, at least I think she deserves, I don't know, at least like 30 minutes of game time. But it also depends on how the team does and how the game is going, because we're facing an opponent we've beat before, but they're not an easy opponent. So they are also going to attack. So they're not the kind of team that's just going to sit back and defend and just hope for the best and hope for a draw. They are also going to come in for the 3 points, especially because they lost to China. So I think whoever wins this game will sit in second. So that's a very high stake to go after. So yeah, definitely Grace, but I don't see much change in the rest of the squad.
Yeah, there are two ways he could look at this. One interpretation of yesterday's game is that we were just one stroke of luck away from a win, right? That shot from Indu, or you give Grace that header 50 times and she'll put it in the back of the net 50 times. It was just freakish that, and I mean, credit to the goalkeeper as well, but at the same time, it was also quite freakish that it didn't go and Grace wasn't able to put it in. So, one way to read yesterday's game, if you were Denaby, would be to say that not much went wrong. If we were just terribly unlucky, or maybe the other way to look at it would be that we need to come up with better ideas. Maybe play Kamla, maybe start Grace. I'm a huge fan of Sandhya's, but uh, I still think that Grace adds a lot of value when she starts.
All right. Yep. And I think we'll end on that note. We obviously can't wait to watch the next game. Fingers crossed that we play well and, of course, try to get a win. But yeah, anything else before we end for the day?
I want to see a proper meltdown on my timeline. Like I want Twitter to crash. That uh, I want us to win. Not really Twitter to crash. That's asking for too much. But what I'm trying to say is that the kind of energy that we saw on the WFI timeline, at least yesterday, and on the day we played Brazil, right? It's Those are two big occasions, and we've never seen that energy uh, ever before or after, right? So um, So yeah, I'm just hoping that against Chinese Taipei we can get a win. We have beaten them before. They will be tough to beat, but we have beaten them before, and we can certainly do that again. We are a well-oiled machine in that sense because we've been playing together. Denaby's plans can be implemented by this squad. It's just that yesterday just wasn't her day, right? So staying positive, I would really want to see that absolute meltdown when we win, when we have a couple of amazing goals. A proper worldie would be nice, but I'll take any kind of goal. I'll take a goal mouth scramble if it has to come to that. Just get us the points.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I think same thoughts. Just looking forward to the game. That's about it. There's not much to say. I think we sort of broke it down in this. So yeah, I'm just looking
Yeah.
forward to it.
And couldn't
All
agree with Samara. Yeah, let's have that Brandy Justin. Oh, by the way, that brings me to another story. Kamla was actually once chastised for taking her jersey off after scoring a goal.
Oh my God,
That was,
yes.
and
oh,
that is supposedly the biggest reason for her fallout with Chauba Devi, right? She was told off for doing that in celebration by Chauba Devi, and that led to a long stand-up sort of a thing between the two of them. So yeah, yes, let's have that spirit, Summer, but I don't think our audiences will quite accept uh, a complete translation of that.
yeah, I think we've spoken enough about the game, and all that's left to do is just look forward and cheer and support and watch it. Of course, yes, guys, please do go ahead and follow Women's Football India. They've been doing an amazing job. Every game, we get the correct lineup from them. We also get a lot like updates constantly. They're doing a great job. So do go ahead and follow them and make sure you're updated with everything that's happening on the Indian women's football front. And other than that, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for watching. Do like, comment, subscribe, the whole YouTube thing. And thank you, Vitla and Ulas, for coming on. It's been absolutely nice. Let's hope we can do this again with the next game as well.
It's an
Thanks,
absolute
guys.
pleasure, Priyanka. And before we just sign off, just want to give a quick shout out to a couple of handles like the Away End on Twitter has been doing some exceptional analysis of women's football games, and do follow them. Do also follow the Injury Time podcast. They've been regularly covering women's football of late, and some high quality content there as well. And of course, yeah, keep following Fanspire and Women's Football India.
Yeah. Thank you. Good night.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Bye bye.